Have you ever looked up at the night sky, at the vast cosmic ocean, and wondered about the stories we tell ourselves to make sense of it all? For countless generations, humanity has woven grand narratives to explain the world around us. The ancient Greeks, in their quest for understanding, conceived of a universe governed not by indifferent physical laws, but by a family of powerful, passionate, and often capricious beings. We call them the gods of Olympus. These weren't distant, abstract forces, they were characters in the grandest story ever told, a story of creation, conflict, love, and tragedy. From the peak of Mount Olympus, a place both real and mythical, these deities reigned. Zeus, the king of the gods, hurling thunderbolts from the heavens, Poseidon ruling the turbulent depths of the sea, Athena, the embodiment of wisdom and strategic thought. These names are more than just entries in an ancient encyclopedia. They are the architects of a worldview, the central figures in a sprawling epic that shaped the very foundations of Western civilization. Their myths and legends weren't just entertainment, they were the science, the religion, and the philosophy of their time, a framework for understanding everything from the changing of the seasons to the complexities of the human heart. Join me on a journey not in a spaceship of the imagination to the edge of the known universe, but back in time, to the dawn of Western thought. We'll explore this celestial family, this pantheon of gods and goddesses who presided over every aspect of ancient Greek life. We will meet the 12 Olympians who captured the imagination of a culture and whose stories echo through our art, our literature, and even our science to this very day. Let's travel to Mount Olympus and meet the family. Our journey begins at the top, with the undisputed sovereign of Olympus, Zeus. Imagine a force so powerful it governs the sky itself, a being whose mood dictates the weather. That was Zeus. As the king of the gods, he wielded the thunderbolt, a symbol of his absolute authority and his ability to dispense justice or wrath from the heavens. He was the youngest son of the titans Cronus and Rhea, and his story is one of rebellion and triumph. He led his siblings in a cosmic war against their father, a titan who devoured his own children and established a new order, a new dynasty of gods, with himself as its ruler. But Zeus was more than just a cosmic tyrant. He was the father of gods and mortals alike, his lineage sprawling across the mythological landscape. His role was to maintain order, to uphold the laws of hospitality and the sanctity of oaths. When you looked up at a gathering storm cloud, you weren't just seeing a meteorological phenomenon. You were witnessing the potential fury of the king of the gods. He was the ultimate patriarch, the celestial judge, and the source of all power on Olympus. His reign was the foundation upon which the entire Greek mythological structure was built, a complex figure of both immense creative and destructive power. Beside every great king there is a queen, and on Olympus, that queen was Hera. As the wife and sister of Zeus, she held a position of immense power and prestige, but her domain wasn't the sky or the sea, it was something far more intimate and fundamental to human society: marriage, family, and childbirth. She was the protector of married women, the celestial matriarch who presided over the sacred bond that formed the bedrock of the Greek household. Her very presence on Olympus symbolized the importance of lineage, fidelity, and the continuity of family, a divine endorsement of the social order. However, Hera's story is often a tragic one. Married to the notoriously unfaithful Zeus, she is frequently portrayed as a figure of jealousy and vengeance. Her wrath was legendary, often directed not at her powerful husband, but at the mortal women and the illegitimate children he fathered. This isn't just cosmic soap opera, it reflects a deep understanding of human emotion. Her rage, her pain, and her fierce protection of her domain speak to the complexities of power and partnership. She was a formidable goddess, a queen who demanded respect, and a powerful symbol of both the sanctity and the struggles of marriage. From the heights of Olympus we now descend into the dark churning depths of the ocean, the domain of Zeus's brother Poseidon. After the defeat of the Titans, the three brothers drew lots to divide the cosmos. While Zeus claimed the sky and another brother Hades the underworld, Poseidon was granted dominion over all the waters of the world. He was the god of the sea, a vast and untamable realm. With his mighty trident, a three-pronged spear, he could stir the calmest waters into a raging tempest, create monstrous waves, and command the creatures of the deep. For a seafaring people like the Greeks, Poseidon was a god to be respected and feared in equal measure. But his power wasn't confined to the water. He was also known as the Earthshaker. The ancient Greeks, living in a seismically active region, attributed the terrifying ground-splitting power of earthquakes to Poseidon's rage. When the earth trembled, it was Poseidon striking the ground with his trident. And, in a more creative capacity, he was also the god of horses, credited with creating the first one. This combination of ferocity and creativity, the untamed power of the ocean and the noble strength of the horse, made Poseidon a complex and formidable deity, a true force of nature whose temper could reshape the world. Not all power is expressed through brute force or elemental fury. Some power, resides in the mind, in strategy and wisdom. And on Olympus that power belonged to Athena. She was born not from a womb, but fully formed and clad in armor from the head of Zeus himself. A dramatic entrance that, honestly, perfectly encapsulates her essence. She was the goddess of wisdom, but not the quiet, contemplative wisdom of a scholar. Hers was a practical, strategic wisdom, the kind needed to win battles, build cities, and create magnificent works of art. She was the divine patron of heroes like Odysseus, guiding them with her sharp intellect and tactical genius. As the goddess of warfare, she stood in stark contrast to her brother Ares. Where he represented the bloody, chaotic frenzy of battle, Athena embodied the strategic, disciplined, and noble aspects of conflict. She was the general, not the berserker. Her domain also extended to crafts and skill: the weaver's loom, the potter's wheel, the sculptor's chisel. The city of Athens, the very heart of Greek philosophy and democracy, was her namesake and her special protectorate. Athena represented the triumph of intellect over chaos, civilization over barbarism, and the brilliant spark of human ingenuity. If Athena represents the cool light of strategic thought, her twin brother Apollo is the brilliant, dazzling light of the sun itself. Apollo was one of the most complex and revered of all the Olympians, a god of immense cultural importance. He was the god of music, poetry, and the arts, often depicted with his golden lyre, the sound of which could bring joy to gods and mortals. He was the leader of the Muses, the 9 goddesses of artistic inspiration. In this, he represents the harmony, order, and beauty that art brings to the human experience, a civilizing force that really elevates us from our base instincts. But Apollo had a more mysterious and profound role as well. He was the god of prophecy. From his sanctuary at Delphi, the most famous oracle of the ancient world, his priestess, the Pythia, would utter cryptic prophecies that shaped the destinies of kings and commoners alike. This linked him to knowledge, truth, and the human quest to understand the future. He was also the god of medicine and healing, yet could also bring plague and disease with his silver bow. This duality, light and dark, healing and plague, clarity and mystery, makes Apollo a fascinating figure, the embodiment of the Greek ideal of nothing in excess, a perfect, rational, and beautiful yet terrifyingly powerful deity. Twin sister to the radiant Apollo, Artemis offers a profound contrast. While her brother represents civilization, cities, and the bright sun, Artemis belongs to the untamed places, the moonlit forests, and the wild frontiers. She is the eternal maiden, the goddess of the hunt, the wilderness, and all wild animals. Armed with her silver bow and arrows, she roams the mountains and forests, a fierce and independent spirit, accountable to no one. She was the protector of the young, both human and animal, yet she was also a deadly huntress, swift and unforgiving to those who crossed her or desecrated her sacred spaces. Her domain also extended to the night sky. Just as Apollo was associated with the sun, Artemis was connected to the moon. This duality of the divine twins, sun and moon, day and night, civilization and wilderness, reflects a deep Greek understanding of cosmic balance. She represented a form of freedom that was rare for female figures in the ancient world, a self-sufficient power that existed outside the traditional structures of marriage and society. Artemis embodies the wild, untamable spirit of nature itself, beautiful, nurturing, and deadly all at once. In the pantheon of gods, where wisdom, art, and nature are celebrated, there exists a darker, more visceral force, Ares, the god of war. He was the son of Zeus and Hera, yet he was despised by both and indeed by most of the other gods. Unlike Athena, who represented the strategic and noble side of conflict, Ares embodied the pure, unadulterated chaos of battle. He reveled in the din of clashing shields, the screams of the dying, and the scent of blood. He was the personification of slaughter, violence, and the brutal physical reality of war. Ares was not a figure of reverence but of fear, the The Greeks might pray to Athena for victory, but they saw Ares as a destructive force to be appeased, not admired. He was often depicted as cowardly and impulsive, driven by rage and bloodlust rather than courage or tactics. His companions were figures like Phobos, fear, and Deimos, terror, his own sons. In a culture that so often celebrated heroism and martial prowess, the figure of Ares serves as a potent reminder of war's horrific, savage, and deeply uncivilized nature. He is the dark side of human conflict, the brutal instinct that lies beneath the veneer of strategy and honor. From the brutality of war, we turn to a force that can be just as powerful and chaotic: love. And the embodiment of that force is Aphrodite, the goddess of love, beauty, desire, and pleasure. Her origin story is one of the most dramatic. She was said to have been born from the sea foam that arose when the severed genitals of the Titan Uranus were cast into the ocean. She emerged from the waves fully grown and irresistibly beautiful. This primal elemental birth hints at the nature of the force she represents, a power that is fundamental, uncontrollable, and born of both violence and creation. Aphrodite's influence was universal. No god or mortal was immune to her power. She could spark passion with a single glance, inspiring epic love affairs and, just as often, catastrophic conflicts. The Trojan War, one of the foundational myths of Greek culture, was ignited by a dispute involving her. She was often accompanied by Eros, or Cupid, her son, whose arrows could inflict the sweet pain of love. While she was married to the unfortunate Hephaestus, her most famous lover was the brutal Ares, a union that symbolizes the potent and often dangerous connection between passion and conflict. Aphrodite represents an essential, amoral force of nature, as fundamental as gravity or electromagnetism, the universal law of attraction. On an Olympus filled with beautiful, physically perfect gods, one figure stands apart: Hephaestus, the god of the forge, fire, and blacksmiths. He was the son of Hera, and in some versions of Zeus as well. But unlike his peers, he was born lame and misshapen, so much so that his own mother, horrified by his appearance, cast him from the heights of Mount Olympus into the sea. He was the outsider, the disabled god in a pantheon that prized physical perfection. Yet, what he lacked in beauty, he more than made up for in skill. He was the master craftsman, the divine artisan. From his forge, often said to be located within the fiery heart of a volcano, Hephaestus created the most wondrous objects in the mythological world. He forged Zeus's thunderbolts, Achilles' armor, Hermes' winged helmet, and the thrones of the gods themselves. He was married to the beautiful Aphrodite, a union that represents the eternal theme of beauty being wedded to craft, but it was a troubled marriage, full of her infidelity. Hephaestus embodies the power of creation, the transformative magic of turning raw materials into objects of power and beauty. He is a testament to the idea that true worth lies not in appearance, but in what one can create with their hands and their mind. In a world governed by gods on a remote mountaintop, how do messages travel between the divine and mortal realms? That is the role of Hermes, the swiftest of the gods. He is the messenger, the divine herald, easily identified by his signature winged sandals and winged cap, which gave him the ability to travel between worlds with incredible speed. He was the son of Zeus and the nymph Maia, and from the moment of his birth he was precocious, clever, and mischievous. On the very day he was born, he invented the lyre and stole the cattle of his brother Apollo, demonstrating his cunning nature. But Hermes was much more than just a delivery boy. He was the god of travelers, merchants, and trade, presiding over commerce and the fruitful exchange of goods. He was also the god of thieves and tricksters, a patron of those who live by their wits on the margins of society. And in a more solemn role, he was the psychopomp, the guide who led the souls of the dead from the land of the living to the underworld. This made him a god of boundaries and transitions, moving effortlessly between the realms of gods, mortals, and the dead. Hermes is the god of communication, connection, and the cleverness required to navigate a complex world. While many gods concern themselves with power, war, and love, one goddess was responsible for the most fundamental cycle of all life, growth and sustenance. This was Demeter, the goddess of the harvest, agriculture, and the fertility of the earth. She was one of the original siblings of Zeus, and her importance to the mortal world cannot be overstated. It was she who taught mankind the arts of tilling the soil, planting seeds, and reaping grain. Every loaf of bread, every measure of wheat was a gift from her. She represented the nurturing, life-giving power of the earth. Demeter's most famous myth explains the very existence of the seasons. When her beloved daughter Persephone was abducted by Hades and taken to the underworld, Demeter's grief was so profound that she neglected her duties. The earth grew cold and barren, and nothing would grow, the first winter. A deal was eventually struck, allowing Persephone to return for part of the year. When Persephone is with her, Demeter rejoices, and the earth blooms in spring and summer. When she returns to the underworld, Demeter mourns, bringing autumn and winter. This story is a powerful, poetic explanation for the planet's natural cycles, linking the life of the earth to the love and loss of a goddess. Our final Olympian is perhaps the most disruptive and enigmatic, Dionysus, the god of wine, festivity, and theater. He was a latecomer to Olympus, the son of Zeus and the mortal woman Semele, and the only Olympian with a mortal parent. His story is one of suffering, death, and rebirth, and his arrival often brought madness and ecstatic frenzy. He represents the intoxicating power of wine, which could loosen tongues, inspire joy, and dissolve social inhibitions, but could also lead to chaos and violence. He was followed by a wild retinue of satyrs and maenads who engaged in ecstatic dances and rites in the wilderness. Dionysus's domain also encompassed theater. The great tragedies and comedies of ancient Athens were performed in his honor during festivals. This connection is profound. Theater, like wine, is a form of release, a way to step outside oneself and experience powerful emotions, pity, fear, joy, in a ritualized context. He represents the irrational, the emotional, and the ecstatic parts of the human psyche, a necessary counterbalance to the logic of Apollo and the order of Athena. Dionysus is the god of letting go, of embracing the wild, chaotic, and transformative power that lies within us all. And so, our brief tour of Olympus concludes. We've met the 12 major deities who sat on golden thrones and ruled the ancient world. From Zeus's thunderous authority to Dionysus's ecstatic revelry, each god and goddess represented a fundamental force of nature or a core aspect of the human condition. They were not just distant gods to be worshipped. They were a divine family whose passions, conflicts, and love affairs provided a framework for understanding the world. They explained the changing of the seasons, the fury of the sea, the inspiration for art, and the complexities of love and war. The influence of these stories on ancient Greek culture was total. They were embedded in their art, their politics, their philosophy, and their daily rituals. The Parthenon in Athens is not just a building, it's a testament to Athena. The Olympic Games were not just an athletic contest, they were a religious festival for Zeus. But their power did not end with the fall of ancient Greece. These characters, these archetypes, are so powerful, so deeply resonant with our own human experience, that they have echoed through the millennia. They live on in our literature, our art, our psychology, and even in the names we give to planets and space missions. Look at the stories we tell today in our movies, our books, and our games. You will find them there. The wise mentor, the brutal warrior, the cunning trickster, the tragic queen. These are the ghosts of Olympus still shaping our imagination. The Greeks gave us more than just myths. They gave us a powerful set of tools for telling stories about ourselves. And as long as we continue to tell stories, to seek understanding, and to gaze at the cosmos with wonder, the gods of Olympus will never truly die.